Joining us now, Victor Davis Hanson, military historian, author. He's just one of our favorites. Brilliant. Victor, first of all, it's great to have you on. Some people are saying, well, why is this story important? We have the shutdown, which we are going to get into, of course. We have the wall issue. We have Trump's declining poll numbers, 2020, all the radicals in the Democrat Party, all the Oscar movies nobody's seen. But why is this issue important? And I say it's important because this is really a microcosm of where we are now nationally, the demonization of traditionally minded people and the press's propagandistic role in disseminating false information. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like taking your blood pressure, your temperature. You do that, and then you find something. It's a barometer of what's going wrong. And whether it's Tawana Brawley or Ferguson or the Virginia fraternity hoax or lacrosse or Michael Brown, whatever it is, it's a symptom of an ongoing pathology. And the pathology is that this idea of Martin Luther King of a multiracial society united under shared values is starting to break down for a variety of reasons. But we're retreating to a tribal society, and I think a lot of people have invested a lot of money and careers and status in the idea that there's such a thing called white privilege, even toward people who were born decades after the Civil Rights Movement and are not very well off in places like Pennsylvania or Ohio or Michigan, just, that white stereotype of the working class. But it's not working, and the Democratic Party has become not the liberal party anymore, but the progressive and now the neo-socialist, and it's wedded to this identity politics. And I think it's not going to end well because it's starting to fragment people. And it's ironic because we're never more intermarried and hard to distinguish. When you see people say white privilege, often they are whiter than the people that they're attacking. But it's become for a lot of people without religion, it's become kind of a faith that they find resonance with or transcendence with.
Oh, yeah, you hit it. You hit it. This is their faith. I mean, when people say they have no faith or they're atheists, I said, oh, really? You don't worship anything? They are the most dogmatic and zealous people out there. They are much more dogmatic than most Catholics, that's for sure, and certainly most evangelicals. Because they won't speak with anyone else.
Yeah, I think that was always the traditional, ancient philosophical reason for religion, that there's a human need to feel a transcendent idea that we don't just perish. And when you don't have that, and it's not on a moral, ethical, but it's more secular or faith in human rationalism, then you get very angry that people are not perfect. And then or if you're religious, you understand that's part of the key to religion. We're not perfect. But if you think that with enough money and with enough education and enough power, you can make perfect people, and anybody gets in your way is sinful or you have to get rid of, that's where the left is today. And we can really see that with this whole Nathan Phillips, because almost you want to feel sorry for the guy, but he's a pathological liar. And everything he has said, from his Vietnam experience to the details of the protests to the people who said this or that, or the fact that he went the next night and tried to break up a Catholic, it's all false. And people know it's false, but they think, well, it's not really false because he's a minority, he's a Native American, he has a different truth, and his truth is that he's victimized, and therefore that's the truth. And that's where we are now. And everybody understands it. Even the people who tweeted and apologized understand why they did it. And
yeah, well, how about the conservatives? All the never-Trumpers. Yeah, all the never-Trumpers jumped onto it.
I know it. I write for National Review, and we had a lot of heated conversations about that because we had 2 or 3 people who, I don't know what the impetus is, but I suspect it was, I got the goods on Donald Trump.
Wish fulfillment.
Hats. I can say that, yes, and this proves that his pernicious, toxic legacy has infected these kids, and they did this, and if I be the first out of the gates to condemn them, then it'll all come true what I told everybody 2 or 3 years ago. That's what they're thinking. They're always looking for that because they want to be redeemed intellectually or career-wise, and so far they haven't. And they dig down deeper and deeper. And as we talked about earlier, Laura, if there's not a downside to it, if there's not a deterrence, then it's just going to keep happening. And I think the people who came out of the blocks and said really vicious things should have been fired or put on suspension, or at least have paid some price.
Right.
But they did it with the understanding there wouldn't be a price because there hasn't been in the past. Look at Al Sharpton. He was created by the Tawana Brawley, and he's the person people go to on the liberal side to secure the black vote. So none of these people have paid a price, and I think they know that, and that's why they keep doing it.
Oh, well, they make conservatives pay a price. As someone who's dealt with this,
no, they do.
They pig pile in 10 seconds. They're on conservatives. Tucker Carlson, myself, Hannity, all of us. Every day they're monitoring. They're like the new Soviet monitors. You know what my point was last night, Victor? Yeah, my point last night was they're almost like the new left-wing Puritans. They're puritanical, but they have a different type of Puritanism. But they're puritanical. There will be no brooking their worldview. If you do, they'll destroy you. But we just can't. We can't tolerate it, though. It has to be exposed, and there has to be a price to be paid. Period. Has to happen.
There has to, because all the never-Trumpers realize that when you come out and you condemn an innocent person, there's no downside. But if you don't come out, there is a downside. So they've made the necessary adjustments, and that's why National Review, Weekly Standard, ex-Weekly Standard people all rushed out because they understood, well, even if I'm wrong, nobody's really going to care because I'm on the right side of the cosmic issue. But if I'm right, I'm going to be praised as a conservative that has ethics. And you got to change that calculus somehow. And I can't think of any other way than making them pay a price so people don't dare do it. But so far, we haven't created a deterrent landscape, so it's going to keep happening.
We're talking to Victor Davis Hanson here on the Laura Ingraham podcast. Victor, we have to talk about this development regarding the shutdown, the government shutdown. The president receiving word that 5 former secretaries of Homeland Security, including his former chief of staff, who I'm sure felt like he got kicked in the face on the way out the door, John Kelly, all imploring the president and congressional lawmakers to strike a deal to restore funding to the department and so reopen the government effectively. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think the short-term Trump is getting killed, but long-term he's got the argument. The argument is, why wouldn't somebody want to secure the border when you see these caravans? And people in the past have voted for it, and he's not asking for 2,000 miles. He's asking for $5 billion, which gets you, 250 miles of key border security. So that's an issue that everybody can't figure out. Why wouldn't you want to do that? But it's lost right now in the hate Trump and all this stuff. But if he perseveres, I think that eventually people were going to say, you mean we shut down the government because you don't want to defend your own border? And that's a winning issue. But he's got to stick to it, and he's got to get his troops together and say, we've got a winning issue. And I think those 20 or 30 House Democrats that won in Trump states will start to see that. But right now, he's dealing with the never-Trumpers, he's dealing with the media, he's dealing with the progressive, hard-left echo chamber, and he's got to stay firm. I don't think, if I were him, I would not give the State of the Union at a rally anywhere. I would go into the Congress and just speak, even if there's nobody there. But as presidents really do, because he has a winning argument, but he's got to just stand firm and not give.
Yeah, I don't understand this whole idea that Pelosi can prevent the president of the United States from entering Congress to give a speech. How is that even possible? I would challenge that too. That's a great idea. Just go. No one's there. The Republicans will be there.
Just go and give it, and then he'll get some people to cover it. And she'll look silly, and the more and more, the news cycle's on Trump's side, because you got up to 20 million people, and you don't know who they are, and there's at least 10% of them, 2 million, that are criminal or their identity theft or something, and they hit the news every day. Here in California, every day, someone's getting shot or hit and run accident, or we have another caravan coming up to San Diego, and everybody understands that, and that's a winning issue to try to stop that. And they know that the wall now is focused, crystallized, distilled into a democratic fear that will work. They have fixated on the wall, not just to deny Trump a victory, but if you build a wall in the right places, it will vastly reduce illegal immigration. That's something they can't stomach. They just don't want that to happen.
Did you see that video? I don't know if you checked it out. Drudge has the link on 500 Central American migrants, and they caught on video just scaling this border fence in Arizona.
Yeah.
500 in one video. That's not a crisis?
But, yeah, it is a crisis. There's another caravan coming, and but it's just the insidious. I mean, I live in a mostly Hispanic community of Mexican-American people, and I was in the market, and a guy came up to me, a Mexican-American guy, and he said, you've got to help us. You got to help us get that wall. He said, that they're in our community. There's gang members. We don't have AP in our classes anymore because we have this bilingual stuff.
Oh my
These
God.
people steal our identities. They hit our cars. They run away. And it's the owner's fault. But that message is not getting out. And I think that Trump's really got to emphasize that the polls show that about half the Hispanic community supports him. And I just wish that his agenda has been so good on the economy and jobs for minority youth. I wish he'd take a few risks and go talk to inner city people, even though he'd take a big hit from protests, but just say, you know what, giving a person a job is a moral act. And I gave them leverage in a way that people did not have leverage with employers and choices and jobs. But and I think that would be a winning argument. Same thing with the border. It's a moral, ethical thing, and put the onus on Nancy Pelosi, but it's hard.
Yeah, well, I think, again, they haven't messaged this well. I mean, to be perfectly candid. There hasn't been – I mean, if you're going to do something this big, like this face-off with Pelosi, you got to war game it. I mean, you got to game this whole thing out. So when I do A, she's going to do B, the media's going to say C, how do we get to D? Like, you have to game it out. And you get a sense that it's just kind of all – by the hip here and shot from the hip, and you can't do it. Like, when Pelosi's savvy, she's been around. She's a wily old dog. She's been around. I don't mean that pejoratively because I say the same thing about McConnell. So don't start tweeting me that I'm rude to Pelosi. But she knows what she's doing, and she has complete unity, at least for now, on the strategy regarding challenging Trump. She has a few Democrats who are challenging her.
She has some vulnerabilities because she's wedded to that. She's scared of that identity politics, neo-socialist wing, and they won't even discuss a wall. And that puts her further to the left. And meanwhile, she's distancing herself, and you can already see them sort of breaking ranks in the Senate and the House that had voted for this thing in the past and would like it to happen. But Trump has to exploit that, and he's got to appeal to, in a bipartisan way, hey, everybody, we voted for this thing in the past. Let's forget the politics. Let's just protect us from these caravans, protect us from all these people that are causing problems within. Free up the Border Patrol to not have to stand on the border when they have a wall. It would free them to do other stuff that's more effective and make that argument nonstop. And I think he can win. I think he can still win this. But if he has mixed messages and we've got defections and the sort of the wishy-washy Republican, he's going to lose. And if he loses, it's going to be catastrophic.
Yeah, this is what Pelosi. Hold on, I want to play something. Speaking of Pelosi, she's at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and she said this. Let's listen.
Congressional Democrats support smart, effective border security, but we do not support the president holding the health, safety, and paychecks of the American people hostage again to a campaign applause line. There is serious and justified concern that this president would shut down the government anytime he does not get his way legislatively. That is why we must hold the line on this shutdown in government.
But they've been very consistent, haven't they, Victor? There's no mixed messages coming from the Democrats. They're consistent.
But remember what she didn't say. Remember what she did not say, Laura, in that whole clip. She did not mention the word wall or fence. She said it was a shutdown so he doesn't get his way or he didn't do this, but she won't mention the fence because she understands that the polling on that's getting better and better, especially as this next caravan's coming. So the one thing they will not do is say, we are against a border fence, because they understand that when they see that imagery, it would be enormously helpful. And they can't say that because their base won't allow it, and they don't want it because they've flipped so many states through illegal immigration. And the only way that you really can perpetuate that is not to have a border wall. It works everywhere. You know, when you go to Israel, you've seen it. I've seen it in Eastern Europe. I've seen it in Greece. It works. And they don't want that to work, but they don't want to say that. So they never mention the wall in these arguments. It's always he depriving federal workers of this, or he doesn't want to discuss border security or electronic smart fencing, but they'll never mention the word wall or fence. They just don't want to do
I think you're right. I think people, yeah. When you just this video, if Trump got up and went into South Central LA or went in, and he gives a speech where he can control it that it's not going to get interrupted 50 times, and he just shows that video of people climbing that fence and dropping down. I think this drives people crazy, it's terrible.
Do you remember in California when we had the open border with San Diego and Tijuana, and they were coming onto the I-5 just all through the freeway, and they were swimming into the beaches of La Jolla and everything, and they just showed that. And then there was such pressure to build that wall we have now that works, and it even goes out into the surf if you see it. But that image of people swamped across and then running through traffic just got everybody appalled. And I think it does. That image is really appalling, and it sends a message. And so I guess getting back to the point, he has a long-term argument that's persuasive, and he's got to stick to it. He's got to get his team in. He's got to say, look, you guys, I know we're taking you. This is where we're going to win in the end. And we've got to keep saying wall, fence, protect. And I think he can win this, but
I think the problem is they have these people on TV. I don't have my paycheck. I can't, you got all the sob stories morning, noon, and night. And I just think, they look at his numbers in places like Colorado and Michigan and Pennsylvania, and his numbers are terrible. His numbers are terrible right now.
No,
I'm going to say what people don't want to hear, but got to turn them around. Got to turn these numbers around, or people like Cory Gardner are going to feel that they can just dump him.
Yeah, and they will. And we only have 7 left, Congress people in California out of the 53 seats after we lost 7 after Election Day, but they're starting to feel heat as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's got to turn that around. This 2020, I'm really worried. I think you are too, because there's going to be so much Bloomberg, Google, Facebook money and distortion and social media and vote harvesting and we're never going to see anything like it. And right now, the Republicans really got to get girded up and not get caught like they did in the midterms, because I think we're going to see an election like we've never seen before. And if they get caught like people in California did, they're going to get wiped out in the midterms.
No, it's.
I talked to all these Congress people that I know, and I said, "You guys better be careful. I think you're going to lose it." No, the polls say we're 12 ahead. I said, "I know, but you should talk to people on the ground about vote harvesting, absentee ballots, get out the vote, all this money they have." No, don't worry. And all those guys lost, and they lost after Election Day. So that's something I think that's one of the most important issues going into 2020.
Mm-hmm. And they're pre-registering people. Don't you love that? They're pre-registering people in high school. So again, they're getting the kids really early. It's really smart. I mean, they're doing stuff that Republicans should be doing.
No, it is. I'm watching my hometown where they get the DMV rolls. They get the new registration from automatically is when you get a license at 18. We have the DMV guy quit in California because they blurred the distinction between illegal alien licenses and citizen licenses. They get mailed out to the voter. The computer tells which district may be a winnable district. They swarm all of these people. They knock on their door. They say, "You have a registration. You can register and vote right now, and I'll wait while you do it." They get the thing, and they take it into the registrar. And they did that 250,000 of them. And it's not just a bunch of people canvassing the neighborhood. It's scientific. They understand where to put your resources, which people are vulnerable, which are not. And I've never seen anything like it, how well organized and well funded it was. And then all of these candidates in California that nobody heard of, they never ran for office. They had more money than the incumbent.
Well, these Tom Steyer and company they're smart. The Tom Steyer and all these guys, they put money into local issues. Local school boards, they're doing that in Arizona. Local school board elections and local judges, they're putting money there. Real smart. I mean, You got to have more than Sheldon Adelson.
Republicans, yeah, they are. I just think that Republican paradigm of getting a few big billionaires to pour in money at the Senate, or that's not going to work anymore. And they need to start right now, or they're going to lose.
Yeah,
and the one who's been really good in California is Devin Nunes. He's already started. He understands. He won by 25% in the midterm.
Yeah.
And he lost, and he won 12% on election day, and he ended up winning by 3%.
Well, still close.
That's what happened.
Yeah, still close.
Yeah.
VDH, thank you so much for joining us. You have so many fans in the Ingram Angle audience, and I'm glad others beyond the Ingram Angle see how phenomenal you are and are inviting you on the shows because you're just terrific. And thank you so much for your wisdom, your writing, your dedication to honesty and your integrity and how you report and write about these critical issues. So thank you so much.
Thank you.